Hi, this is Ali Hinojosa from Choose Positive. Today, I am so happy to welcome New York Times bestselling author Nick Ortner. Nick is creator and producer of the groundbreaking documentary film The Tapping Solution and producer of the online annual event The Tapping World Summit, which has been attended by more than 500,000 people around the world. Nick is not only a tapping expert, but he's also such a positive leader who has dedicated his work to inspiring people everywhere to learn and apply tapping to create healthy, financially abundant, and stress free lives. Nick, it is so good to have you here. Welcome to Choose Positive.
Thanks.
Bienvenido.
Gracias. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So, the intention of this interview is to provide an introduction to tapping and to how we can apply it to our lives. So, first of all, for those who have never heard about tapping, not to be confused with tap dancing,
Yeah,
uh, what is tapping?
yeah, great question. Yeah, sadly, I can't tap dance at all. But we call this tapping because we are literally physically tapping on endpoints of meridians of our body. Another name for it is EFT, the kind of tapping we're doing, emotional freedom technique. And it's a combination of ancient Chinese acupressure, right? That's the physical tapping component, and modern psychology. Because as we do the tapping, we're saying affirmations, we're focusing on the stress, the challenge, and whatever it is that we want to change in our lives.
Right, right. So, I know that in your book, you share your first experience with tapping and how this changed how you perceive your perception about how healing can sometimes be quick and easy. Can you share
Yeah.
that story with us?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first times, I found tapping online over a decade ago, and I kept hearing about this strange tapping thing, and it certainly seemed weird, but I kept hearing about it enough. I said, I'm going to try it. And I woke up one morning with just a crick in my neck. You wake up because you slept wrong, you pulled something, who knows what happened, right? And it's not a big deal, but it's painful, and it can take a day or two to get better, to finally let go and heal.
Right, yeah.
And I kept hearing that tapping works really well on pain relief, just one story after another about it. So on a whim, I decided to pull up the instructions and made sure to close my blinds so my neighbors didn't think I was going crazy,
Right,
and did the tapping. So, going through it, even though I have this pain in my neck, even though it hurts, following the instructions, going through the points, and I did it for what was perhaps 5 or 10 minutes, and all of a sudden the pain just was gone. It just released completely.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah, and what was exciting for me at that point was, it's great that the pain was gone, but I started asking myself, if I can change this in my life that quickly, so a little thing like pain relief, what other things can I change in my life? What are the things that I think are just the way they are, just the way I am, but they can change? And I started using tapping on a lot of different aspects of my life.
Right, that's great, Nick. And I'm thinking that people watching would love to understand why and how is it that tapping works. I mean, what is the science behind it?
Absolutely. There's a lot of different theories as to why it works. It was discovered over 30 years ago by Roger Callahan, and for the past 30 years, or past 25 or so, a lot of the discussion was around energy in the body and balancing the energy system and meridians and stuff that might actually be true, but we don't have as much hard science and research on sort of the concept of energy. But what we have discovered in the last 5 or 10 years is that when we tap on these endpoints of meridians of our body, we actually send a calming signal to the amygdala in the brain. And a lot of people know that the amygdala is the fight or flight response center. It's the stress center. It's a part of you that when you're stressed out about something, it lights up. It's a part of you that, in ancient times, when there was a tiger in the bushes or a bear and you were in danger, the amygdala fired. That way you could run or fight or flee.
Exactly.
And when we do the tapping, we're calming that part of the brain. So we're basically, in essence, telling the body, the mind, the spirit that it's safe.
I think that it would be great for everyone watching. Maybe, now that we're understanding more about tapping, it would be great if people can have a visual about where the tapping points are, the main tapping points, which are the ones that you normally use.
Absolutely. And we can have an experience, and that's what's great about tapping. Just in a few minutes, we can all feel I mean, it's one thing talking about it, but let's feel what it actually does.
Awesome, yeah.
Okay, so step one is to identify what it is that you want to work on, our tapping target. I mentioned pain before. If you feel any physical pain in your body right now, if there's tension in your neck, if there's tension in your shoulders, pick that as a target because you can often feel the difference. If you're not in pain at all, you can pick something that you're stressed out about. And you want to try to get as specific as possible. So instead of just saying, I'm stressed out about the world or my life, say, I'm stressed out about something someone said to me last week. All right? I'm anxious about an upcoming project. I'm angry because of what happened this morning. Get specific on one source of stress.
And identifying the emotion, I see that that's what you're doing. Angry about this.
Yeah, the more we can get specific, that's a great question. Angry about what happened. Usually there's various layers of things. We can tap on the emotion.
Right.
We can tap on the event. We can tap on a limiting belief. I feel this to be true about myself and the world. So just pick one thing that's going on, either in your body or emotionally. And once you've decided what it is, give it a number on a 0 to 10 scale in intensity. So for pain, it's obvious. If your back really hurts, maybe it's a 7 or an 8. If when you think about what happened, you're really angry, it's an 8 or a 9. And it's subjective. Just give it your own number. Okay. So we have the target, what we're going to tap on, and then we have the number.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
And then the next step is to actually do the tapping. Now, I'm going to guide you through the points, and I'm going to use very general language. If you and I were working one-on-one or people were tapping on their own, they would talk about their back pain, their anxiety, their anger. We're going to use general language since I don't know what everyone's tapping on.
Yeah, okay. That's perfect. And then people can just, whenever they can follow this tapping round with us. And then when they have learned it, they can put some other specifics into it so that they can make it more of their own and target it to their specific problem or issue, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So
all right.
We're ready.
All right, let's get started. So we start by tapping on the side of the hand. It's called the karate chop point. Whatever hand feels comfortable, left and right. Okay. You're just taking 4 fingers and you're tapping gently. We're going to tap repeatedly and then repeat after me. And I'm going to say, even though I have this stress in my body,
even though I have this stress in my body,
I love, accept, and forgive myself.
I love, accept, and forgive myself.
I'm going to do that 2 more times. Even though I'm dealing with this issue,
even though I'm dealing with this issue,
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Even though I'm dealing with this issue in my body,
even though I'm dealing with this issue in my body,
in my life,
I
love, accept, and forgive myself.
I love, accept, and forgive myself.
So that's a setup statement. Now we're going to go through the points. The setup statement is always, even though we fill in the blank with the issue. So even though I'm angry, I'm sad, I have this pain, whatever we're feeling, and then we do an accepting statement on the other end. I did a couple variations. I love myself, I accept myself, I forgive myself. It's less about getting the language perfect as it is the feeling, right? We're bringing up the issue, we're accepting ourselves with it while doing the tapping.
Okay.
Right? And now let's move through the points. The first point is the eyebrow point. Inside of the eyebrow, right where the hair ends and it meets the nose, you can use 2 fingers of one hand, of the other hand, or both hands. The meridians run down both sides of the body. And just repeat.
Sorry, Nick, is there a difference if we use only just one or both?
Great question. The meridians run down both sides of the body. Anecdotally, some people say that they get better results when they have both hands available. But if you only have one hand available, that's great.
Okay.
All right? So on the eyebrow, and again, one hand or both sides, and we're just tapping 5 or 7 times, not counting, but just going through the tapping and repeating what we call the reminder phrase. It's reminding us of the original issue. So if you were in pain, you might say this pain, this anger. I'm going to use general tapping now and just say this issue.
This issue.
And now side of the eye, it's not at the temple, right next to the eye, on the bone. Again, one side or both sides, perfect. This stressful issue.
This stressful issue.
Now under the eye, right on the bone, this issue in my body.
This issue in my body.
Under the nose, all this stress.
All this stress.
Under the mouth, you want to go above the chin, below the lip, right in that little crease in there, all this stress.
All this stress.
We have 3 points left. Feel for the 2 little bones of the collarbone. And you go down just an inch, out to each side about an inch. You can tap with all 10 fingers to make sure to hit the point. Perfect. This stressful issue.
This stressful issue.
Now, underneath the arm, 3 inches underneath the armpit, right on the broad line for women, either side of the body, this stressful issue.
This stressful issue.
And the last one is at the top of the head, this issue.
This issue.
Now let's do one more round now that we know the point. So back to the eyebrow, this issue in my body.
This issue in my body.
Side of the eye, this stress I'm dealing with.
This stress I'm dealing with.
Under the eye, it's safe to feel it.
It is safe to feel it.
Under the nose, and it's safe to let it go.
It is safe to let it go.
Under the mouth, acknowledging this issue.
Acknowledging this issue.
Collarbone, this stress.
This stress.
Under the arm, and letting it go.
And letting it go.
Top of the head, right now.
Right now.
Take a deep breath in. And let it go. And that's what's called a round or two of tapping. So after every round, we're doing two things. First, we're checking in on what we were working on. So if you had pain, if you have anger, check in with that feeling again and see how it's shifted. What's the number now on it?
Right.
So take a second to do that.
Okay, so if it was at a 9 and now I feel it at a 6, that's great. And then if I wanted to keep decreasing it to feel better, I would just need to keep on tapping, right?
Exactly. Keep going through the rounds. I mean, a 9 from 6 is great. It means that you're shifting in a minute and a half, starting to let it go. And then what you also pay attention to is what else comes up as you're doing the tapping. So someone might start tapping on back pain and think it's only about the back pain. And they're tapping for a couple rounds and it goes from a 9 to a 5. And then they start thinking, why do I keep thinking about work and all the stress there? And they do a little tapping on the work stress because that's coming up. Next thing they know, the back pain clears away. So we're looking to see what are the clues, what are the connections, memories, insights, ideas, emotions that come up as we do the tapping. And we just peel the onion. We just follow doing the tapping, seeing what comes next.
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing what we can heal through tapping.
Absolutely.
And from your experience, for what type of issues is tapping most effective for?
Great question. Well, I mean, I know it's a lame answer to say all of them, but it is so many issues because if we look at the root of, for example, financial challenges and stress, right? So financial challenges, stress is often at the root of that. When we are stressed out about our money and bills and finances, we're not creative. You know, if we think about that fight or flight response, when we see a bill and we're stressed out about it, the blood flows away from our brain into our arms and legs because we think that we're in danger. Yeah, so then we don't come up with creative solutions. Exactly. You know, we don't write the book we want to write or take the new job or do or perform better at our job.
Right.
If we look at, pain relief is an obvious one. My next book with Hay House is on pain relief. And it's because it works so well on pain relief. I see the results again and again. And along with pain relief, other things about healing the body. You know, I never say that tapping cures anything. Not that it cures cancer or cures fibromyalgia or cures the disease, but it helps support the body in healing. Right. So if we get to the root of stress, 99% of doctors, if not 100%, will say, yes, stress is a component to physical disease. So if we can get to the stress, we can help the body heal. Excellent. Weight loss is another great place, both for reducing cravings, cravings for chocolate and certain foods, and then also releasing the stress and the emotional components around weight loss itself. Sometimes people can be so stressed out about trying to lose weight that the stress itself is keeping the weight on. So those are just a couple of the main categories. But really, any place in your life that you're trying to overcome a challenge, stress, limiting beliefs, emotional patterns, they're going to be at the root of that. You can use tapping to really get to the core. Yeah, great. I know I've used it for physical pain, for emotions, for prosperity, and every time it works. And what happens is that it really calms you down. So it's really amazing. So I imagine that some people watching are wondering, how long do we need to tap for, and how often do we need to do it for it to have the greatest results? Yeah, great question. Well, when I first got into it, over a decade ago, I did a lot of tapping because I was so excited about the results. And I basically said, I'm going to look around my life and clean it up.
Nice.
Wherever there's places of a lot of stress and emotional challenges, I'm just going to go there. So I did a lot of tapping then. Now I do it more as a maintenance. So there's a specific stressful issue that comes up, I'll tap on that. I think daily as a practice, a lot of people use it sort of an adjunct to meditation. So they'll say, in the same way that I meditate to calm my body, even if I feel great, I'll tap to just go even deeper, to feel even more calm in my body. And obviously, as specific issues come up, you can use them more extensively for that issue.
Great. One of the other things that I think people might be wondering is, are there any side effects to tapping or something that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, great question. Well, certainly, tapping's been used a lot for people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, more serious mental conditions. It's been used for that, but it's the kind of thing you don't want to do on your own. So there are great therapists, trained psychologists, and psychiatrists who actually have brought tapping into their practice. And if you're dealing with some more serious issues, trauma, abuse, things that when you even think about them, it doesn't feel safe going there. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing you can handle on your own. Then that's a clue to reach out for professional help. On the daily stressors, the pain you might have in your back. If you have pain, always go to a doctor first and then find out what it is, make sure there's nothing really medically wrong, and then you can use the tapping to reduce the pain. So use common sense, talk to your doctor about it if there's a particular condition that you want to try it on, or reach out to a therapist in more serious mental conditions.
Great, thanks. And also, one of the many wonderful things you do to bring healing through tapping, you created the Tapping Solution Foundation, which you've got even here in Mexico. You've had some projects. You have some in Rwanda, in the U.S., in Newtown, your hometown. Can you please share with us a little bit about the work of the foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been, the Tapping Solution business has been supporting different projects around the world for several years. And we started the foundation almost 2 years ago now. You mentioned my hometown is Newtown, Connecticut, which is a site of the Sandy Hook school shooting. So I'm not, I'm 10 minutes away from where that happened. And, I was stunned with the rest of the world when that happened and knew that since I was so close and there was a technique that could really help with the trauma and the grief and all the emotional challenges that came with the event. So we started the foundation. We've been working on the ground for the last 2 years and making tremendous progress, working with parents who lost their children, working with teachers who were in the schools, kids in the schools, and starting to implement through the foundation programs in not only the local schools, but schools around the country and around the world. This week we're presenting at a hospital and working with them to integrate it into what they're doing. So the foundation's mission is really just to find the different places where this tool can be brought in to help people heal.
Yeah, and I'm sure those are practically everywhere in the world.
It
could benefit from just including such a powerful tool like tapping into the overall healing of the person. Nick, well, you're such an amazing teacher. Thank you so much for being with us here today at Choose Positive.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you. For more information about Nick and tapping, please visit thetappingsolution.com.
Me encantaría saber cuál ha sido tu experiencia o qué preguntas tienes. Por favor, déjanos un comentario aquí abajo. Y si te gustó este video, por favor compártelo con tus familiares y amigos. La buena vibra es contagiosa. Muchas gracias por ser parte de Choose Positive. Soy Ale Hinojosa y nos vemos pronto.